As you can see from the title slide, my title is Change Agent. Can you guess what I do? No, I don't make small change. I help you manage large change. And as you can imagine, in a society and day and age where things are changing at warp speed, that can be helpful indeed. My talk today is about an oncoming revolution, about crowdsourcing. But to put it and frame it in the correct context, I thought I would give you perhaps some of you might consider a slightly exhilarating ride to the landscape of now, because I need to put it all in proper context. And to do that best is to visit a few Uber trends of mine that I think will help you recognize how we as Americans and people around the world are changing, and why. Why are we changing? Because that's really the framework that is important. I don't need to tell you that we're in the midst of a huge global revolution. That a fruit vendor in Tunisia was able to make such massive change happen that rippled all across the Middle East was only made possible by a whole new phenomenon called social media. And these social media were so pervasive and so helpful that one Egyptian decided to call his firstborn Facebook. Just call me Face. And notice the hashtag that is database speak for being able to find a term faster. So unbeknownst to most Americans, we're turning them into database jockeys, and they don't even know it. So the revolution, though, was being propelled, as this gentleman in Egypt so beautifully shows, by our new expanding digital toolbox. And it is that digital toolbox that is providing the virality by which these messages are traveling around the world. And they're traveling really fast and in some unsuspected places. Like the Paris Hilton Xenia Sobchak of Russia, who is now taking on Vladimir Putin through her 367,000 followers on Twitter, again showing you the power of these social networks around the globe. Even the normally reserved Japanese are literally ebullient on Twitter as they greeted this old revival of an anime movie in December with the world record, as it stands now, 25,000 tweets per second, which, as you can imagine, is a dazzling number. Twitter is extremely popular in Japan. Closer to home, we've seen that the social networks are able to provide us with a careful tracking of viral outbreaks, something that, of course, as you can see by the date of the article, we didn't discover till 2 years later, but now everyone is going to start using some pattern matching technology to be able to detect these type of outbreaks further, easier. And closer to home, we have the fabulous story of a homeless woman who was able to get herself off the streets through the engagement techniques that the social networks provide us. And this is, again, a remarkable story and certainly a welcome message for Anne-Marie Walsh. Now, as you can imagine, these media are having massive ripple effects upon everything else that we do and touch. Some of you may know that this particular television show on CBS was based on a Twitter account. I will help you, you'll have to read the title for yourself. But again, this is not the first or last time that we're going to see this type of phenomenon happen where the net dictates what the rest of the media does. On that same television network, there is this show that you may have seen, The Big Bang Theory, which is a bunch of geeks getting together in the ultimate celebration of nerdiness, and again, giving you an inkling of how our digital lifestyle is merging into our broad media world at large. Now, these geeks would be very happy to know that you can now update your Facebook status using your OnStar system while you're driving, to which Jay Leno said, "Well, finally, I was getting so bored talking and texting." indicative of where we are in our society. Yes, this Facebook thing has become huge. Did you see the IPO statistical data, the pre-IPO data that they just released? I mean, it's phenomenal. 125 billion friendships, which equates to 901 million members. So I did a little quick analysis for you. That basically translates to 139 friends per user, which suggests that our networks are growing because the last time they said it was 130 per user. So we're getting more friends. The numbers, as you can see, 3.2 billion comments per day, 300 million photos uploaded, the expected valuation of 100 billion, which led some smart person online to say, okay, Mr. Zuckerberg, I want my $111. Please pay it out to me right now since I'm the one providing the content to you that you're helping sell to investors. Well said. That's what I say. Well said, well said. Well, speaking about photographs, do you remember this revolution from just 10 years ago? The digital camera? Well, you know, soon we will have to put that one in the dustbin too, because as you can imagine, this is being relegated by the mobile phone camera, which of course is becoming the preeminent way of taking pictures and recording movies today. In fact, I'm sure that it has become a very helpful tool for many people who are on these social networks based on this data just released in the UK, which I thought was very fascinating. In 2009, 1/5 of all divorces involved Facebook, and in 2011 it's already 1/3, and it's only going faster. And I know this is, of course, only among behavior petitions. So misbehaving is becoming duly recorded. Okay, so what we have now is, of course, another social network, as I mentioned, Twitter, that is doing a phenomenal amount of volume of data. 140 million active users out of their 500 million, doing some 340 million tweets a day, which is an enormous, enormous volume. But it is an extension of the trend that started in 2010, where from the first time we decided to use our social networks more than email, which is a tool that we just have had since 1994, about 17 years. So think about it, this is a startlingly fast pace with which we are changing the way we communicate. And of course, you know, the ways of which we communicate can somehow be a little bit strange. Erykah Badu, that singer from Texas, decided to use Twitter while she gave birth, or as CNET put it, she tweeted while she squeezed. Their words, not mine. That this is our way of staying connected, and that we will do this when we are in, shall we say, very private moments, shows you how quickly this world is changing due to this very flexible communication tool that we have just acquired. And of course, this has become such a crazy incidence of human communication that, as you can imagine, people are making fun of it. I love this cartoon. I don't know if you saw it. So you're saying people will tweet what they're eating for breakfast and upload pictures of their breakfast to a Facebook, and other people will make comments. Excuse me, future man, but is everyone in your time retarded? Hey, if you woke up in the 50s and walked around today and saw what people were doing, you would also ask, what happened to us, humanity? We've certainly changed a lot. We changed so much that we are now in a total panic. Everyone in the cat freaks out when the social networks go down, as you can imagine, and that is a phenomenon that is happening, unfortunately, all too often, right? So, social gaming, that's another one of the sub-trends of the digital lifestyle. 200 million Americans game each month. 42 million are currently playing Cityville. That shows you how incredibly popular these games are. And if you find yourself at work updating your Facebook status, or heaven forbid, playing Cityville or Farmville, then you're participating in a whole new phenomenon called social not working. are passing along these fun little videos like this one. Have you seen this one? When YouTube announced its 5-year anniversary 2 years ago, they were already getting more views every day than the 3 top television networks combined. So you can imagine what our world will look like within 5 to 10 years. You will not recognize our media world because everything will be digitally recorded, and the streams of the daily streams of video are going to make YouTube today look like a joke. If you don't believe me, take a look at the statistics. They're unbelievable. In just a year and a half, the number of mobile uploads via the mobile phone have grown 14-fold. Now, keep in mind, most Americans are still trying to figure out how to take a picture with their cell phone. So the fact that we've got the avant-garde running around directionally tells us how quickly and unbelievably this change will be. Now, of course, there's a sub-trend to this. If you find yourself like me, sometimes at 4 in the morning realizing you've been surfing all night, then you're suffering from a phenomenon called screen sucking. And if you have forgotten your name and password because you're registered at so many sites, I'm registered at 610 as of this week, then you're suffering from another modern affliction, logonorrhea. Now, I mention these not only because they're funny, but it also tells you how our vernacular is changing, how our whole humor is changing due to this whole new way of living. Now, you could be forgiven to have forgotten where you are when you look at a new social medium like Pinterest, which of course has captivated everyone's attention these days. And as you can see readily from this photograph, why that is. It's a social network that is optimized for our comic book culture. It's just pictures. I have to just look at pictures, nothing else to see here. But this is the type of new wave thinking that is going to keep the field fresh and keep reinventing this very exciting medium. Now, what will happen though, as you can imagine, is that for anyone who's selling furniture or design or anything, this is driving massive amounts of e-commerce traffic to their websites. You've seen the statistics. Some people say as much as 20% of their sales traffic is already being generated by this new network. There's some trends that have already started, like in the UK, the teacup piggies have taken off, because what can better show off how small these pigs are by putting them next to a huge cat, right? So you could be forgiven if you say, hey, Michael, there's so many social networks, I can't keep track of them all. What do they really do? So allow me to illustrate this using the donut guide. Twitter, I'm eating a donut, and don't forget the hashtag. Facebook, I like donuts. Foursquare, this is where I eat donuts. Instagram, here's a vintage photo of my donut. Pinterest, here's a donut recipe. And my favorite G+, I'm a Google employee who likes eating donuts. Now, if you think that the use of these networks are kind of superficial, let me set that comment or thought aside, because the reality is that the majority of Americans are using these networks to connect with family and friends, and that is a profound way of looking at this medium. So we are not going to see this go away anytime. FOMO, I'm sure some of you have heard of this new moniker, the newest trend. It's really an old one. It's the fear of missing out. And this is driving a lot of this communication that we see around us. I went to Etsy and I found a pillow that exemplifies this. Always up late, always last to leave the party. You may be afflicted with FOMO, the fear of missing out. There is no known cure, so don't even try. Just stay connected, because that's the only way you're going to do it. And it is part and parcel of this whole new culture that likes to stay connected. Clearly, we want to be in touch, and this is a very important driver for our culture. Now, the businesses that are leveraging these types of trends early are meeting with tremendous success. Korean barbecue trucks out of Los Angeles is a perfect case study of this trend. Back in 2008, they said If you follow us on Twitter, we will let you know where our 2 trucks are going to be in Los Angeles. You should see some of those early reviews. People were asking, what's Twitter? They had no idea, but that shows you if you're the trendsetter and you're willing to, back it up, obviously, with a superb product like they did, you too can have a line that stretches around the corner on La Brea at 11:30 at night, as in this case. And when I started tracking them in 2009, they had only 7,000 followers. As of this morning, April 30th, 98,431 followers. So you can see this is tremendous success. And I would not say that they are entirely responsible for this particular food truck trend, but it is notable that the amount of food being processed through trucks is growing more rapidly than the restaurant market at large. So that gives you an inkling of what's happening here in Las Vegas. We've got several trucks plying the streets. San Francisco has French food trucks, Indian food trucks. Everyone is jumping on the trend, and even more than half of American adults now say they would eat from a food truck, which, as you well know, used to be a fairly blue-collar type of exercise. Now, texting, of course, is that old medium that is largely actually to blame for the success of COVID, because this is the medium that moves mobile messaging. You see that kids use texting a lot, at 3,500 a month on average per teen. But that's nothing compared to this girl from Southern California, Raina Hardesty, who sent and received a whopping 14,000 messages in 1 month. I have to see those fingers, they must fly. I would love to hire her to do my outbound social networking. I think she would be really good at it. Don't you agree? Yes, she would absolutely be. Now, these teens, of course, they're the ones that think a little bit more out of the box, as is clearly evident from this little story out of the UK. The Scottish teacher asked her students, will you please write one of those essays that we all find so annoying, how you spent your summer vacation? And this 13-year-old decided that, why don't I write it all in text lingo? My summer holidays were, does anybody know what CWT means? Complete waste of time. And I'll revisit that because it's very important to this topic. Before, we used to go to New York City to see my brother, his girlfriend, and their 3 kids face to face. That's another interesting concept. I love New York. It's a great place. As you can imagine, the teacher was mighty upset. The English language is under attack, she said. But one University of Cambridge professor believes that by 2020, the English language will start to resemble texting. If you don't believe me, let's look at the history of OK. We used to write it O-K-A-Y. That was too much, so we decided to make it capital O, capital K. Now in chat, there's no time to use that shift key. It's just lowercase k. That's all the time I have. And if you use okie dokie, you're way behind the 8 ball, okay? Don't do that. So, we've got changes afoot here. We've got changes afoot, and we need to save time. And we do that by multitasking, our favorite habit. Here is Ellen DeGeneres to tell us a little bit more about this particular trend.
I was watching the news the other day, brought to you by Paxil. Well, now I need it. Smart advertising. That's another thing, too. When I was a kid, the news was on once a day. Either caught it or you missed it. Now the news is on 24 hours a day. And that's not enough. They got a guy talking, and then there's a crawl down there. So you got that guy talking, you got the crawl going, you're online, you're putting in your opinion on your poll. No, I say to that, no! I said no, too, that's right.
What Ellen so beautifully illustrates here is how fragmented the consumer attention span has gone. No one really pays any attention anymore. I mean, it's gotten to be so unbelievably crazy. Yeah, and the trend is spreading. The trend is spreading because this truck driver was caught with a cell phone in one hand, talking, texting on another, and somehow driving too. Like this, I guess. Ended up in a swimming pool. No surprise here. How many of you text or email while driving? Raise your hands. Come on, go ahead. Okay, that's not too bad, but I think there's a lot of liars in this room. The trend is up. The trend is up. 35% from 26%, and I've seen even higher numbers. They did a survey in the 30 states where it's illegal now, and in 4 out of 5, the accident rate is actually up. Can you guess why? I'm going to fool that state trooper. I'm going to text under the keyboard. Dashboard, rather. Keyboard, dashboard. Almost the same. So, you've got this whole new value set that has developed in this nation. And what do you think that is? It is more important to stay in touch than to stay alive. That's basically what Americans are saying. You gotta see, think about that. I mean, think about the thought process that went through the head of this 16-year-old in Tampa. My iPod or my life? My iPod or my life? And she decided to jump in front of the truck to save her iPod. Luckily, she only broke a leg. But you have to admit with me, this is definitely an OMG moment, don't you think? Or as they like to say in China now, OMG. Oh my Lady Gaga. Then came this little piece of news over the transom. That stiff upper lip British English dictionary, the Oxford English Dictionary, actually added OMG and LOL to the dictionary. And I didn't even know that BFF was already there, did you? Isn't that crazy? How insane is that? But to show you how much this chat culture of ours has permeated our lives, I found this hilarious sign up in Vancouver who expressed gas prices in chatting regular LOL plus OMG. And I'm going to let you read how my superior is. Yes, very humorous. This is all due to the time compression Uber trend. And for those of you who believe this is a contemporary phenomenon, let me straighten the record. I'll take you back to 1946. Cambridge, Massachusetts. 3-year-old girl says, "Dad, it takes too long for these photographs to develop." Father happens to be Edwin Land, and the Polaroid camera went on sale in New York for $90 in 1947. Same town, same year, Cambridge, 1946. Percy Spencer notices that a candy bar melts in his pocket while he's testing out these new microwaves. And the radar-range microwave oven is born. And America is introduced to instant gratification, and nothing will ever be the same again. Now, I understand that this is a rather complex topic, so allow me to enlist the help of a comedian to help explain this concept better. Stephen Wright once said, "I put instant coffee in the microwave oven." I almost went back in time. I think that helps you understand what this trend is all about, right? Yes. And of course, nowadays, we don't even have 1 minute to wait for that Polaroid picture to develop. No, now we have real-time previews on ever bigger and sharper screens on our digital cameras. This one is called Hyper Crystal View, so that you can take one good last glimpse of the photograph I just took. Because as you well know, I'm too damn busy to email it to you, so take one look. You'll never see it again. Isn't that true? Exactly, that's what happens all the time. We just don't have time anymore. And we don't have time to sleep. We now sleep 2 hours less than we did in the 1920s. Even babies sleep 90 minutes less than the 14-hour daily minimum recommended by doctors. Why do you think that is? Because they have to get on the internet. That's why. You know Mattel Toys calls that trend K-A-G-O-Y. Kids are growing older, younger, right? We have that 15-year-old girl from the Netherlands, that girl, Decker, whatever her first name is. She's sailed around the world, 15 years old. And then there's this amazing stat. 82% of kids under 2 already have a social profile. Now this is among digital moms, so obviously this is kind of biased, but it gives you an idea of the direction of the market and where we're going. Now, of course, you know, since we don't sleep, we need energy. And we get energy through our favorite picker-upper. That is coffee. So now we put Starbucks on cruise ships. 59% would like to see more coffee shops on cruise ships. Starbucks has 19,000 stores generating 13 billion in revenues. Remember when cruising was for relaxing? Heck no! I gotta go meet 6,000 people on my boat. That's a lot of social networking. I have no time for that. I'm gonna need some more than coffee. How about some Red Bull? Yeah, that's what we need. Red Bull. This business did not even exist in 1982, and now it's a $42 billion global category. If you were in on the deal really early when that Austrian from pharmacist came back from Thailand and said, I have this drink, and I saw these Thai truckers drink to stay up, you would now own 53% of the energy drink market. So you can see trends. They're very interesting and fascinating. Now online, how does that translate? Well, if your web page takes 400 milliseconds longer to load, Marissa Mayer at Google says you will lose 1% in search volume. And of course, over 150 billion searches a month, that's a lot of search volume you're losing. And once you do convince them to come to your website and they click through, you know they're only going to stay 60 seconds. And if it's a Facebook page, it's only 36 seconds. So that is how much time you have to sell someone. That's why you probably should start thinking about keeping your pages extremely simple. No flash, make them load fast. You don't want flash anyway because the mobile phones can't take it. And now, how do marketers and media help propel this trend? This way. I love this ad that I saw in San Francisco Airport, National Car Rental. Move faster using a radar gun to measure the walking speed of people walking up to the sign. As I was taking the picture, I noticed people were speeding up. Now I want to write National an email and say, put these in all airports so we can speed people up. This is a great ad. If you are a squirrel or a trout, I have got good news for you. We are hunting and fishing less. And of course, who has time to play golf? We have lost 4 million golf players since the year 2000 because no one has time for 18 holes. 3 holes, anybody? That's all the time I have. 3-hole golf is going to become very popular. And what are the loveliest words you can hear in the office? Can anyone guess? Can we reschedule? Can we reschedule? Thank you for giving me a slice of my day back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We used to look forward to lunch. Now we look forward to lunch canceled. Doesn't that tell you a little bit about America? It tells me a lot. This is a crazy trend, but it's being propelled by a fascinating phenomenon. Here's Ellen to tell us all about it.
Those jingles are catchy. We retain that. In 30 seconds, we remember all this stuff, because of the repetition. I believe that someday sitcoms will be 30 seconds long. Because that's all we'll need, and that's all our attention span can take, because our attention span is shot. We've all got attention deficit disorder, or ADD, or OCD, or one of these disorders with 3 letters, because we don't have the time and patience to pronounce the entire disorder. That should be a disorder right there. TBD, too busy disorder. What's with the sudden choice of disorders that we've got now? When I was a kid, we just had crazy people. That's all, just crazy people. And something positive, because we hear all this negative stuff all the time, and we go out into the world, it's so chaotic, and not that we're going to notice if it's a beautiful day, we're moving too fast to even pay attention to that. And we need help to keep up with that pace, so we put a coffee shop here, and there's a coffee shop here, and a coffee shop here, and a coffee shop here, and the smallest coffee is a tall, and I'll have a coffee and a side of Red Bull, because I'm very, very busy. I've got TBD and I'm late for yoga. Hurry, hurry!
Did you count all the trends in that one skit? Yoga, energy drinks, coffee, TBD. She just finished telling the audience that yoga is adult babysitting. Quiet time we can't arrange for ourselves, so we pay someone else $20 to keep us quiet for 90 minutes. 17 million Americans practice yoga, up from just 4 million in 1994. So that is a staggering statistic. It's over 110 million worldwide. And keep in mind, no one knew about yoga until the Beatles brought it to the West in the 60s. So think about that. Changes are happening. Now, all this tweeting and texting is rendering us present yet absent-minded, as this paraphrasing of this USA Today quote says. But, you know, I look at it from a positive perspective because technology will come to our rescue. Think about this one. Look at this. You can now screw on medicine cap on your medicine bottle that will send an email or text message to remind you to take your pills. Dad, I just got an email. You're not taking your pills. How crazy is that? Isn't that unbelievable? And how about in video game? Video game. We've got this game from Nintendo Brain Age, which has sold 31 million copies worldwide because of this Japanese professor who believes that if you exercise your brain, you will improve your memory. And as you well know, you're starting to forget more, right? Because of multitasking, etc. Mild cognitive impairment is what the doctors call it, MCI. I'm sure this happens to you all the time. You run into a room and you forgot what you got into the room for. Happens to me all the time. I ran, so it must have been important. That's all I remember. But the best application of video gaming in healthcare has to be the discovery that the haptic interface of the Wii, the Nintendo Wii, helps people recover faster from injury. It's a trend called rehab. And you have to agree with me that it's much better to say that is in rehab than in rehab, right? Exactly. So the thought starter for the time compression tuber trend, which has created a supercharged society of people who are in love with instant gratification, which, as you all know, the joke goes, instant gratification is not fast enough. You got to respect this ADD world, which is a disease, of course, that was only first diagnosed in 1981. And keep things simple. Who are the two most valuable companies on the stock market today? Apple and Google. And why? Simple. Keep things simple. Avoid CWT at all costs. Can you guess what the most successful company is that is leveraging time compression in the travel industry? Can I give you a hint? 38 straight years of profitability? Southwest, exactly. In a very marginal industry where no one is making money, and American is the last one to declare bankruptcy, this company has for 38 straight years declared profit because it can flip planes faster than anyone else. That's the name of the game. And that's why it's very important that you think about time compression. And you can go to my website, there's a zillion other examples, but I want to keep it simple for you today. Okay, Unwired. Another river trend that starts a long time ago for all of those people who believe things are modern, they're not modern afflictions. Genie, garage door opener by Alliance, a small company out of the Midwest, 1954. 2 years later, another small Midwest company called CNET comes up with a Space Commander remote control. And the couch potato generation is born, and everything has to go wireless. What is the best exponent of this trend? You can see it in the picture below. The cell phone. Can you imagine that people camp in front of the Apple store waiting for a phone to go on sale? Camp! How crazy is that? Isn't that Looney Tunes? Who would do something like that? While I was standing in line, it reminded me of this joke. The only time kids go camping now is in front of a store waiting for a video game to go on sale. Ain't that the truth? Who has time to go camping? I gotta update my Facebook status. No one has time to go camping. But you can't blame the kids. These phones are hypnotic. They suck you in. I love this cartoon. A bunch of friends are coming over to stare at their phones. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that what your friends do nowadays? But these phones, again, have brought us all kinds of cool new techniques, like location-aware marketing, Foursquare, check in at the Grand Geneva Hotel in Wisconsin, where I'd never been, and I could even get myself a free drink. It's the best example of location-based marketing there is. And Foursquare is now, with 20 million members, perhaps the best example of location-aware marketing. And how about augmented reality browsing? I'm very excited about this technology. If you use your Yelp application, you point it out the window, click on that little button called monocle in the corner, you'll see it put its database layered over the camera picture. And then here I'm in Franklin, Tennessee, never been there. I can see that there's a Wolfgang Puck Express, there's an Italian Grill, how many reviews, what stars they're getting, etc., etc. Who needs a courgette with this type of power lurking in your pocket? It is amazing. Now, of course, you know, that does have a side effect. Libby Copeland was trying to get at it in the Washington Post a few years ago. There's something peculiar on about this pickiness phenomenon that is emerging, something aligned with our consumerific culture of too much, where everything is customizable. What Libby was trying to allude to that she couldn't put her finger on is the trend of control freak. Now you're probably saying, Michael, I'm not a control freak. Oh yeah, really? Are you familiar with this application, package tracking? Every day, UPS handles 23 million package tracking requests. And FedEx handles another 7 million. So that's 30 million control-free commands every day. Give me that tracking number. I want to make sure you send me that check. Oh, it's on the truck. Oh, thank you. I can relax now. The trend has spilled over to the pizza. If you go to the Domino's website, you can now track your pizza. Here I am in Atlanta, and DeMarcus had put my order in the oven at 6:50 p.m. Oh, good. I'm so happy now. I can relax. I tell all the hoteliers, within 5 years, all room service order tracking will be available online. Who wants to be naked when the food arrives? Nobody. Exactly. So this trend is spreading. And take a look at the travel business. Remember when no one used those kiosks at the airport? I don't want to talk to a machine. Now, the majority of people use the kiosks in the same boat for the grocery store checkouts. Because we don't want to talk to people. We don't. The Bel Air Hotel has just instituted iPad ordering for room service, and 72% of room service orders are coming in via the iPad. You don't have to talk to people. So think about that. If you have a customer processing intensive business, let the customer do the processing. It'll save you time, and they want to be in control anyway, let them do it. So Unwired is creating a highly mobile, independent consumer lifestyle, one that is in love with America's favorite value, freedom. Freedom to decide when, where, and how. So think control freak, let them manage the process. Here's a great example of the control freak trend being leveraged by a company of all places, Bucharest, Romania. They have come up with an app that allows you to take a pic of this mole on your skin, and it'll tell you if you have melanoma or not. Is that pretty wild or what? Does that give you an inkling of how much power lurks in this whole unwired river trend? Pretty exciting. I love it. Okay, digital lifestyle, marriage of man and machine. There's a scientist in the Netherlands who believes that by 2050 we're going to be marrying robots, and Massachusetts will be the first state to allow it. Do you think we'll find robot love, anybody? Do you? Well, let me give you some advice. Don't knock it until you try it. Okay? And while you're thinking about the question, on to the evidence. Already 4 out of 5 adolescents sleep with their phones in or near their bed. Robot love, anybody? Huh? Oh, okay, one more picture then. How about this one? Oh, an iPhone, I'm in love. Definitely worth crying over, don't you think? Well, you know, we keep moving forward, and it is an amazing story. As you all know, last week we got the numbers from Apple. 218 million phones sold, 67 million iPads sold. The iPhone business alone is more profitable than Exxon. Apple generates more revenues on the iPhone than Google generates revenues, period. So you gotta think about that one. So this is definitely reshaping our society, and I can't stress it enough. That's 557,000 devices sold per day. That is amazing. So you know what the platform of the future is going That's why also you know that I'm throwing a 25-year reunion for my staff at Mac Week on May 19th in San Francisco, and the theme is 25 years too early. When you ride ahead of the trend, sometimes you ride way ahead. Things are changing so fast. I love this cartoon. The newspaper says they may stop delivering letters on Saturday. What's a newspaper? What's a letter? Isn't this true? Aren't you finding people that say this all the time? At Brookstone, you can now buy a pair of cufflinks that have a Wi-Fi network and a thumb drive in your cufflinks. Can you say Bond? James Bond with a voice in there? Can you? That's what this is all about. Amazing, isn't it? And this is only going to accelerate when the digital natives, those born post-1996, grow up and with their online oxygen permeate our culture even more than it is today. To give you an example of this, take a look at this statistic. 7 out of 10 children ages 2 to 5 can use a computer mouse, but only 1 out of 10 tied your own shoelaces. Doesn't that tell you enough? Tells me. So as you can see, we are changing in front of your very eyes. The human user interface is showing remarkable leaps forward, as this shows you. And you know, can you imagine what this baby will do with a new iPad that looks even sharper and even more lifelike? The imagination is your only limit. So the digital lifestyle is rewriting the rules of social engagement. And as technology becomes ever imbued in our society and lifestyle, you need to really think about your communication toolbox and how you communicate with these individuals that don't know the difference between reality and virtuality in this world of ours where we live in. You get the drift. This is an amazingly great way of marketing a restaurant. A one-button ordering system. And it communicates to your cell phone, so it creates a mini network. And then it immediately sends the order to the restaurant. This is Red Tomato Pizza in Dubai. So think about the changes that are coming down the line when marketers are starting to increasingly focus on this simplicity. I call this surface marketing. Not that hammer on the head marketing that we're all doing, because that is totally useless nowadays. It is helping the consumer save time. So that's what it's all about. So let me give you an Uber trend summary and how it relates to our particular market. Digital lifestyle is redefining the way consumers interact, and therefore they're also completely redefining the way they want to engage, kind of like that iPad baby did with the magazine. Does not want to go at that low level. Time compression, the lack of time, hey, I don't need to tell you. We don't have time, it's depressing response rates, and it requires new research tactics. There's no way we're going to get projectable research statistics with these low response rates. And Unwired is creating this whole new world that is dominated by the iPad and the iPhone, where the consumer has both the benefit and the power of being able to decide when and where to fill out that survey of yours. And you, of course, can also field surveys more quickly and more effectively from your standpoint, the standpoint of surveying the field. Let's take a look at the survey response history data. In the good old 50s, when things were really dandy and peachy, we used to get 90% response rate. Nowadays, if we're lucky, we get 53% from consumers, and we get 38% from businesses. And as you well know, these are very optimistic numbers. Typically for those online surveys, if you're over 20, you're very lucky. So what does that mean? Well, you know, we're very busy, we don't have time, so they have declined, as Pew Research just here confirms for us, and we know we need to change our methodology. Now, methodologies can be changed quickly, but in a world where, look at this I call this multimedia tasking. 7 out of 10 tablet owners use their tablet while they're watching TV. So that tells you already, I mean, you're really challenged here trying to get some kind of mind share, right? But it does give me optimism towards me, for example, doing surveys that are fielded at the same time as the television show goes on, as long as the survey is no more than 3 questions. So, what do we have going on? The online surveying market has been fantastic. I love SurveyMonkey. You know the model. The model is free if you do less than 10 questions per survey. And then you go all the way up to $900 a year or something like that. GoDaddy is another one. GoDaddy does basically the same kind of surveys from your website, etc. Again, the focus is on the $200 per year range, going all the way up to $900. And then for those of you who like to do everything yourselves, which I count myself under, I like Woo Food. This is a startup out of Florida that was bought by, I think it was bought by SurveyMonkey. And they allow you to create very easily quick forms that you can field on your website and quickly generate reports that look very nice, as you can see, graphically showing you your whole do-it-yourself type of survey. I like that. I think highly of it. Square is a startup out of San Francisco. You know, they are already processing $5 billion worth of credit card transactions. They had a strategic investment from Visa. And you can see here, look at this, they're replacing the cash register. One click on these shirts and immediately it brings up the right inventory, etc. I'm showing you this because to me, when I look at this is cross-pollination. To me, this is a great survey mechanism. I don't exactly know when we will be able to have every consumer have their smart card with all of their basic demos available, but as you see, I'm working on it. And then you will be able to swipe people, not have to ask them those annoying demo questions, and get immediately to their usage data, which is what you're really most interested in anyway. So let's talk about crowdsourcing. What is crowdsourcing? Crowdsourcing is, as the name would imply, we are using the population at large to help us source us with information. That is at its baseline level. Now, the best way to look at it is social media plus content organization equals crowdsourcing. It is the organizational aspect of it that makes it so exciting. So again, I see huge amounts of research activity here because remember, if you are redefining the way people interact with media, then obviously they also want to change the way they interact with survey data. And that is why I think crowdsourcing has tremendous potential. Okay, let me explain it to you in a very practical fashion. This one is from Spain. It's called Dia Garrafon. And what they do is they tell you what bars serve too weak drinks, where bartenders tend to spike their drinks with too much water. Now, this may seem innocuous to you, but this gives you an idea of the type of creativity that is going all over the globe because crowdsourcing sites have exploded. They're all over. They're in Argentina, they're in China, they're everywhere. People are coming up with all kinds of creative ways of getting to data that is very hard to collect. Like in the city of Boston, this app is called Street Bump. And on your Android phone, if you see a street bump, you can immediately report it to the Boston government, city government. This is a creative application that shows you, again, your crowdsourcing research data that you would have to, in the old days, collect yourself. But now you've got the whole city of Boston being actually your reporter and helping you improve this. And I think that's a very exciting application. Now, from a practical standpoint, how valuable this is, well, let's take a look at the people that have gone public that are basically crowdsourced websites. You are familiar with Angie's List. This lady started the list in 1996. She wanted to know what the best doctors and lawyers were in her city. She built that out into a $642 million valuation IPO this past fall. So you can see there is a lot of money in the field of collecting this kind of data. And as you well know, there is not enough good information going around here in this. Crowdsourcing IPO, Tripadvisor, we all know, we love Tripadvisor. If you haven't checked this website out before you travel, you're missing out a big deal because this one gets right to the source. 4.2 billion market cap tells you how valuable this IPO was. And then Yelp, like I already said, there's no better restaurant review site, and It's all crowdsourced by reviews from the consumer, and that went out with an $840 million valuation. But the most exciting field in crowdsourcing is the field of crowdfunding. Crowdsourcing, but looking for money. And the most spectacular example we've had so far is a Canadian watch company called Untitled that has, according to The Guardian, on April 19th, had raised $4.5 million for a product that they could get $375,000 for in angel funding, but when they went for a Series A round, no venture capitalists wanted to put any more money into the company because they did not trust getting into the hardware business. So think about this. The venture capitalists are a focus group. The market was asked, what would you want to invest in Double? And as of this morning, whoa, $7.1 million. Is that staggering or what? Does that give you an inkling of where we're headed with this? And remember, the SOPA law that was just passed by Congress a few weeks ago and signed by President Obama, it will, with the help of the SEC, legalize crowdfunding in the United States in January of 2013. If we do get it, all hell will break loose. So, the next web went and looked at Kickstarter's numbers and thinks they have already raised $120 million in just their last year alone. So that is amazing. Most people don't even know what Kickstarter is. They were in the New York Times this Sunday. So crowdsourcing plus pattern matching is the next huge upheaval. And what's pattern matching? It's what Amazon made popular in 1996. It's the ability for you to take a look at, what patterns are developing and matching it to crowdsourcing to create massive revolutions. As you well know, we are in a revolutionary period, even in America. Things are changing dramatically. I don't need to tell a room full of market research directors that we are in dire straits, but just in case you don't know, let me tell you why. 76% of American voters say the country's headed in the wrong direction. And the reason for that is simple. Have you looked at this data from Simmons Experian? Half of U.S. households have less than $10,000 in disposable income. So I could tell you, till you're blue in the face, till I'm blue in the face, sorry, that you should be innovative, that you should be using crowdsourcing, that you should be doing social media, that you should be using viral marketing and all these things. But if your core market is sick, you can't get blood from a stone. So what we need to do is we need to reinvent this country of ours. We know that the banks got $60 trillion, no interest loan from the Feds, right? We know that they, for example, have an exposure, this is old data from last year, it's now 255 trillion exposure to derivatives, which will make the real estate crisis look like a day at the beach, okay? There is no country in the world that has enough money to backstop this disaster, and it is going on as we speak every day. If you look at education, on May 8th, we're going to pass the 1 trillion in student loans, according to FinAid. And one observer has said that this is going to create a generation of wage slavery like we have never seen in America before. So I have gone on the audacious strategy of launching a social revolution in America. And my goals are very simple. And I want you to help me with it because it's a super huge task, as you can imagine. We're going to crowdsource the best ideas and innovative solutions. And people will be able to vote on it. We're going to be able to move all of these ideas that have been crowdsourced and voted on into a business plan. You have a business plan. Why doesn't this country have one? I have no idea. We're going to write one. And we're going to delineate deliverables and benchmark data. So you know when and where. And then we're going to do an innovation showcase to help Americans better grasp the trends and how to leverage them. We're going to use Spigot, which is a startup out of Pleasanton, California, to do the actual crowdsourcing. So they can handle millions of votes every day and make sure that people get their due social currency. You're going to be able to get iPads and iPhones for being a very contributory member to the society, and that's the good old American spiff you, right? And as you well know, the trend is hitting at the right time. Here's what Mark Zuckerberg said in the S1 prospectus. We hope to change how people relate to governments and social institutions. We believe building tools to help people share and bring more honest and transparent dialogue around government and to direct empowerment of people and accountability for officials. So clearly, the tools and the platforms are in place for this massive change that I believe we should bring to America. Please download my book, Social Engagement Marketing. It's the only book I can guarantee you that has pictures of Britney Spears and Hugo Chavez in it. And I talk about social marketing because I believe in simplicity and ease of use. Please follow me, ubercool on Twitter. You can Social Revolution on Facebook, Social Revolution on Google+. Remember, I need all the help I can get. And it's a huge task, but I think it's going to be one that will float everyone's boat in this room. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you found it very inspirational.